Welcome to today's session. We're going to continue in the book of 1 Corinthians in chapter 16. Paul is finishing up his letter to the church of God being in Corinth, which was consisting of holy people, Christians, and he gives them some more details regarding how they were to behave themselves. He also gives them information about his own travel arrangements, certain greetings, and other things. Let's continue in verse 1 of chapter 16. Paul says, concerning or about the topic of collection, specifically for the holy people, that is, the time for collecting physical items with a view to give something to other Christians, to other holy people, so as to help them in the physical category. So regarding the topic of the collection, entirely as I arranged through and through, or as Paul put fully in order, he had arranged throughout the churches where the churches located in Galatia. So Paul is now telling the Corinthian holy people regarding the topic of the collection for holy people. He had already taught this to the churches in Galatia, which is at a different location, and now he's teaching the same thing to the Corinthian holy people, and he's letting them know that he also told the other holy people in Galatia. It wasn't only for the churches in Corinthians. So he says, entirely as I arranged throughout the churches located in Galatia, thus also emphatically you must do, or you yourselves must perform the collection in this manner, which is that during the first day of each week, and that is on the Sunday being the first day of the week, the day when holy people would normally gather together at their meetings. So on the first day of the week, each one of you, that's each one, and by using the word each, Paul is emphasizing that each individual is being referred to, each Christian, each holy person. Each one of you must put with or for himself, place or set at rest beside himself in a suitable place, whether it's in the house, at home, or whether they bring it to a central location. But each one of you must put for himself, treasuring up, as storing, or laying up in storage, treasuring up whatever he may be prospered. Whatever you are being caused to be led on a good journey, that's the word prosper, going on a good journey, a way that is well. Whatever you are successful in during the previous week. And if you also look at other usages of the word prosper, you'll see that it is in connection with God's intention to provide for his people. So Paul says, each one of you must put up for himself, treasuring whatever he may be prospered, for the purpose and result that the entire church of holy people, so that the whole collection would not happen at the time when I, Paul, would be or go to Corinth. They were to do the collection themselves on a weekly basis, so that it was ready when the right time came, when Paul himself would arrive at Corinth. Paul says, at whatever time that I would arrive or come beside you there in Corinth, I will send by means of letters or true epistles of authentication from myself, from Paul. Who will he send? He will send the people whom you approve, whomever you, the Corinthian holy people, would already have proved by testing or examination, and would have thereby approved to perform this responsibility of carrying away, of bearing or bringing from you to others your grace, the unmerited or undeserved favor that you want to freely bestow on the other Christians, on the other holy people who would receive what you would give them. And then Paul says, those into Jerusalem. The location, of course, at Jerusalem was where the apostles had set up their administrative headquarters for the other holy people at this time. So Paul is referring to what the Corinthian holy people would collect for other holy people as grace. And grace is what is freely bestowed without any merit on the recipient's part. It is undeserved favor towards someone else. So what they collected to give to the holy people in Jerusalem was to be willingly given by them. It was not to be as a wage or as a compensation for something that the Jerusalem holy people had done for the Corinthian holy people. The Corinthians were to give to the Christians in Jerusalem by grace, gracefully. Paul adds, but if it should ever happen that the situation or circumstance would be worthy, would be deserving of or for me to journey in addition, in other words, for Paul also to travel from where he was located in Ephesus at this time writing the letter, if it was worthy for him also to travel to Jerusalem, then they would journey in conjunction with Paul. The determining factor as to whether or not Paul would journey to Jerusalem at that time was not going to be the size of the collection from the Corinthian holy people, but it was what the Lord Jesus Christ would tell Paul to do, as the following verses explain. So let's continue and see what Paul tells us in verses 5 through 9. Paul writes some of his planned or proposed journey, his itinerary. He says, I will go towards you, Corinthian holy people, at whatever time that I would go or pass through Macedonia. For I presently purpose to go through Macedonia. So at this time, this was Paul's plan, to pass through Macedonia. And when I will be attained, in other words, when he would have reached or achieved the goal of going to that area, I will remain alongside with you, or I will stay with you at that time. And then he says, or I will spend the winter, the time for stormy weather, I will spend the winter beside you, for the purpose and result that emphatically you would send me forward, or you yourselves would send me on my journey with provisions, whatever or whenever I would journey after my visit to you. In truth, I do not intend, I do not will with my active volition and desire to see you now, to perceive you at the present time, while I am passing that way beside you or going close to your location. For I hope, I expect something to happen at a future time. What? I hope to remain on or to stay for a longer length of chronological time with you, if it should happen at any time that the Lord would permit, that the Lord Jesus Christ would allow me, give me permission to do that. So Paul recognized that he was to do the Lord Jesus Christ's will regarding his travel arrangements, and he was letting the Corinthian holy people know that. And then he said, but I will continue staying in Ephesus for the length of time up until Pentecost. Ephesus is the location that Paul is at while writing this letter. So he's writing the letter to the Corinthians, and he's letting them know his plan, that I will continue staying in Ephesus for the length of time up until Pentecost, because in truth a door, great and inworking, has been opened. And the word door refers metaphorically to access or opportunity, admission, a door, and Paul describes it as being great and inworking, or the door that is large and it's Inworking, it's energizing, effective, it's productive. Work is being done. A door great and inworking has been opened. For what? For Paul to teach the good message which he's talked about all throughout this letter. So here in Ephesus he says that this door, great and inworking, has been opened and it continues open. Even so, Paul continues, there are a lot of people who are adversarying. So there was a lot of people in Ephesus at this time who were opposing Paul. They were in opposition to the teaching of the good message that Paul was heralding forth to the people. Of course, that figuratively refers the word adversarying as though those people were lying or laying down in front of Paul, attempting to block his access to the people in Ephesus at this time. And Paul knew what was going on, and he was letting the Corinthian holy people know what was going on. However, Paul continues in verse 10.